Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us in this webinar session organized by the League. Good afternoon, Mrs. Biola. How are you today?
I'm very good. Good afternoon.
Glad to have you in this session.
It's good to be here.
Sanjay, good afternoon. Is it afternoon or morning at your end? No, for Sanjay Sonny.
I know. Yes, it's early evening in Johannesburg at 6 o'clock.
Oh, it's 6 o'clock. Wow.
Yes.
No, we just finished a session together. Thanks.
Yes, I know.
Great to have you. We'll start in the next 2 minutes. Just bear with us. Let two other people join us. So while we wait, what's your view as regarding the investment landscape in Africa, especially for the year 2022?
I'm going to be presenting about it now. So
okay.
Part of my presentation, if you want to answer my presentation, I can go ahead and start now.
Okay, no. Let's keep it Nicola. I know.
But I mean, I think we've already started to see the excitement. The year's already kicked off with some great announcements, with some great numbers. So, I mean, I think that in spite of everything happening, there's still going to be a lot of growth, a lot of excitement, even though globally there might be some corrections, especially with everything happening. But I think once again, innovation and entrepreneurs are going to constantly find innovative ways to get around this. So I'm very excited and positive about 2022.
That's fantastic. So it's going to be a very great year for angels and also for venture capitalists.
Yes.
And also for the entrepreneurs, it's going to be an exciting year for them.
I agree. I totally agree with you.
Okay. That's fantastic. That's super. You have the right to share your screen, so we'll just start right away. I have some of the angels are in a location in one of our hubs in Osun State. I'm sure they will also find it quite interesting connecting to you. Good evening to every one of us present in this call, especially for those who are sharing the same time zone with us, and for those whose time zone are not same with us. I want to greet you good morning or good afternoon, irrespective of your time zone. This evening we have a special guest in the house, Mrs. Biola Alabi, who will be taking this sourcing and investment thesis. Mrs. Biola Alabi is an angel investor. She's the co-founder of Article Ventures. Article Ventures is actually a gender smart seed venture fund that provides pre-seed and the seed fund for startup and entrepreneurs in the African landscape. I'm sure she will talk about it as she goes on with her session. Mrs. Alabi is also the Deputy Chair, Board of Governors of Lagos Angel Network. So welcome Mrs. Biola Alabi this afternoon into our midst for her to give us an expository session on this sourcing and investment session. Welcome on board, and over to you, Mrs.
Alabi. Thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here. I already see quite a number of friends and colleagues in the session. So thank you everyone for coming and joining us. I think that, what we're seeing is that there's a lot of excitement. There's also a lot of understanding, and what we know last year and what's happening this year is already changing. And so I think that as angel investors, and even as I also enter into the world of VC, it's really, it's always just a pleasure to have these conversations, because they're also a refresher for me, but then also I'm learning from you as well, because we're all in this ecosystem. And what's really important is that we continue to build an ecosystem that we all want to be part of, and that is moving the continent forward. So I'm really excited to be here today. I really don't see that, I see this really as a learning session where I'm learning from you and you're learning from me. So please, let's start popping questions in. I'm gonna make sure that we go through this so we could have a lively conversation. But thank you all for attending. Today, I just want to talk about deal sourcing and investment thesis, and also share some of my missteps on this journey with you, and hopefully you can learn and we can learn from each other. So why is this the best time to be an angel on the continent? I'll talk a little bit about that. The way I see the angel investment process is really around deal sourcing, evaluating, negotiating, and really coming to a win-win, closing, investing, and really adding that value, and hopefully getting a liquidity event that we all pray for. But we all know that we're investing in an extremely risky asset class, and so we know that sometimes that return might not come. But I really want to use this opportunity because part of what we're doing at Lagos Angel Network, part of I was on a call earlier today, is really we're trying to make sure that there is enough angels in the ecosystem investing, engaging, and adding value, so that when venture capital comes in, they're also able to follow on to those investments. If we don't have enough angel investors in our ecosystem, we're not going to grow at the rate that we could grow, and we're not going to be able to support amazing founders that are here. One of the things that we don't have on the continent, which a lot of the West has, and this is really sort of also evolving in Southeast Asia and parts of Asia, is friends and family, where there's enough people in someone's initial circle that can write them that initial check. We don't have that, and so really angels tend to serve as that friends and family stage as well. So please, as you go on this journey, just realize the shortcomings of our ecosystem and how we have to fill those. So why is this the best time to be an angel investor on the continent? Africa still has the youngest population. 70% of our population is under the age of 30. That means that they're craving connectivity, they're part of a global economy, and they are consumers waiting to consume. We have a lot of sectors that in comparison to other markets are underdeveloped. They still need a lot of development and innovation. And we're seeing those around fintech, around logistics, commerce, food and agriculture, macroeconomics, politically stability across the continent. Unicorns are being created in a shorter period of time, and I'll show you some of the graphs around that. VC activity is increasing, and this is always a good thing for angels. Accelerated digitization, the internet economy is projected to reach 155 billion by 2025. That's just in 2 years. And one of the most exciting things is regional integration, which we're seeing everywhere on the continent. And this is exciting. We're seeing more and more cross-border transactions happening, and exits are starting to we're starting to see some real exits, and some of our colleagues are also having participated in some of these exits and IPOs. So that gives us a lot of encouragement and excitement as angels. Okay, and then so what do you need to sort of keep in mind as you're looking at the ecosystem? If you look at the ecosystem and you look at the growth over the last five years, you'll see that we've doubled our VC investment. That means the number of deals coming in. Last year, Africa raised over $5 billion at the end of the year. This is, 3 times of what we raised in 2020. It is already projected to be 10 billion for this year. And really, we do believe that it'll be 20 billion again next year. So we really do see this huge increase in VC activity. We see global VCs coming into the market. VCs can't come into our market if angels are not investing. So you need a healthy angel landscape for VCs to come in. And that's why there's this huge push and this huge move now to make sure we develop a healthy angel investment landscape. And we really get more people understanding angel investing and participating in angel investments. What's exciting is also just like I said earlier, the number of unicorns that are emerging. It used to take a long time to be able to get a unicorn and get an exit, but today we're seeing unicorns being formed in anything less than 3 years. So InterSwitch, it took them 17 years to become a unicorn. Foray in Egypt, it took them 12. Jumia 4, Andela 7, Flutterwave 5, and OPay 3, and Chipper Cash 3. This is amazing. Imagine if you're an angel that got in on the ground deal to any of these deals. In less than 3 years, you actually are part of building a unicorn. So not only are you able to get, these are great double bottom line returns. You're able to get a return on your cash, but also an impact, because if you're part of any of these companies, you've changed the continent. You've really changed the way we transact, the way we do business, the way we do different things on the continent. But then besides just sort of becoming a unicorn, there are also real exits happening now. And this is really something that angels can take hold. Angels can actually touch and feel this. These are acquisitions happening. So acquisitions around Wave, with World Remit, Paystack, Take a Lot with Naspers. So this is really, these are things that just make the ecosystem lively. They give a lot of people encouragement to invest early, and they give you that sort of that comfort that there is an opportunity here. And I think this has been something that we haven't seen until the last 3-4 years. And so once again, it's never been a more exciting time to be an angel. Why are my slides freezing? Okay. So since it's a great time to be an angel, how do you actually find these opportunities? So being part of networks like this, angel networks are always a great place to find deals, to work with other people. Our angels always know other founders. Founders bring founders in. And so you're building your network by being part of an angel network. You can also do syndicates. You can syndicate deals. Once again, this helps you bring more people to the table. And as angels, you have more power, especially when you're negotiating. It's really important to also immerse yourself in the ecosystem, to be part of the ecosystem. So going to events, engaging, being at universities where you can actually make a huge impact very early on, being part of an accelerator. Accelerators and incubators are always looking for external speakers. Just go there, lend your experience, also helping amplify what the ecosystem is doing. Once people see that you're active in the ecosystem, they will come to you. And really just make sure that you have an open door policy where people that you've worked with in the past, people that you know that are building companies, are also able to come to you. I think these are always great ways of sourcing people, and especially in a way that's already filtered because it's coming through people. What are the things that you as an angel need to know? One of the biggest things is, as an angel, you need to trust yourself. You need to trust yourself, because the most important thing is not only finding the best founders, finding the best businesses, but how can I support these people? Am I in a position where I can support them? Is it important to me that I can support them? And then, of course, as you make your investment, you want to do everything you can to protect that investment. So the first thing I always tell people is, does this feel right to you? It's always easy to say, oh my God, everyone is investing in this. This is the next hot thing. Really, this is why when we get to the thesis part, it really helps once you have your thesis, because it guides you. And when you meet really charismatic people that sometimes they have the best intention, but there's not really a lot of meat behind their business, you really can tell. And because of your experience, you always know when something doesn't feel right. And a lot of times people still go ahead and invest in a business that didn't feel right. And so when those businesses go belly up, they'll say, I kind of knew this didn't feel right. I have 1 or 2 businesses like that in my portfolio that after some engagement, I kept on thinking that this was a founder that I thought wanted, I can sort of get involved with, I can really help, I can train, and I kept on thinking that I don't know if this founder is, and I had all these doubts about the founder. In the end, it ended up not being a win-win relationship. I mean, after making that investment, I invested time in trying to add value. And in the end, it just wasn't the right business for me. And I think I knew going in, but there were also it was a very charismatic. It also aligned with some of my thesis, but it didn't align with a lot of what I wanted to do. But I still went against my better judgment. And that happens sometimes. So I really think it's really important to trust yourself. I think as investors, really build a great brand. Make sure you're an investor that founders want to come to. Founders always recommend, and I mean, I had dinner with 3 founders 2 weeks ago, and I was shocked by just the discussions they were having about even investors that I thought were well respected. I mean, founders were having really bad experiences. So really be careful, because founders do go out there and they do share and they do say things. And sometimes I'm shocked by even some of the activity I see on Twitter about investors. So you really want to be that investor that people see as adding value, that has a good reputation with entrepreneurs, or else you won't be able to get great deals. And I think part of why it's great to be in an angel group or part of an angel syndicate is that you can share due diligence. One of the first couple of deals I just did solo. And so I was doing due diligence on my own. It got really, really onerous. I was really, really snowed under. And there was also a deal that I didn't do because I didn't have time to do the DD that ended up being a really big opportunity. So I really wish that I had joined an angel network earlier, especially when those deals came my way. So I think that just being able to do due diligence with other people and also farm out the due diligence can be really helpful, especially as you start to build your portfolio. And really being able to spot red flags. I mean, I think that there's been a lot of discussion around revenue lately, like how do you do due diligence on revenue? If you start to see red flags, the founders don't want to share information with you, you ask them for information, they're too busy to share information, be mindful, but also ask yourself, am I asking this founder to do too much? Like, founders also trying to build. So depending on the check size, and also this is why it's great to syndicate deals, because if you're bringing in a bigger check size with other people, founders are it's much more easier to get founders to respond to your questions, but also really try to aggregate your questions at once, not sort of like going back and forth, but really try to help founders understand your process from the beginning. So if your process takes 2 to 3 weeks or 2 weeks or 1 week, really have all your questions answered, ask them for access to their deal room or whatever due diligence you need, and really try to make sure you do that at once. If then a founder doesn't do that after agreeing to go along with the process, then that's a red flag, and you just have to be aware of that. So why should you have an investment thesis? I always feel like early on doing this and not having an investment thesis, there were some deals that I just went along, and it actually wasn't things that I really was passionate about. And so I wasn't able to add value, or I wasn't that interested in adding value. And some of those investments, even though they did well, I would have loved to be more involved in those deals and being able to add more value. And that's something I learned later on. And so I really find that, number one, this is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. It took me a very long time, and that's even still changing and evolving. When I started this late last year, early this year, I really started to get involved more and more in DeFi, decentralized finance. And even now that I've done a couple of investments in that space, I haven't even updated my thesis. So my thesis is still even old from what I used to do to now, that I'm actually now interested into exploring more of the future with Web3. So this is something that's constantly changing. It's always good to keep up with it because it stays front and center for you. But I really feel like if you can do this and you can be disciplined, this will really be helpful. So when I joined Lagos Angel Network, one of the things that we were very clear about at the beginning was that we wanted to invest in places that we could add value. So we first started out saying Lagos, and then we said Nigeria. And then with COVID, we were like, okay, we can open up anywhere on the continent, because with COVID, it just once again showed us how we actually can do cross-border transactions without having to go and visit the location and go and see the people. And so just in like 2-3 years that as part of Lagos Angel Network, I saw even how the thinking around geography changed. So you also need to be open to that as you develop this. traction, you need to decide if it's important for you for the entrepreneurs to have some level of traction. So that could be a waiting list, that could be customers. It could be that it's like you have 40 customers and you don't care, but you want to be able to have something that is important to you in there. And then you always want to know what sectors, what market are important to you, and what value do you add to these companies, and you want to put that in. So for example, it's important to also understand what am I comfortable with? And I think when you write it down, sometimes you can change it as well, because that also changes depending on how much liquidity you have. And also if you end up with a liquidity event, your check size should go up, especially as you continue to invest. But once again, you understand your needs and your needs better than anyone else. This is sort of my personal thesis. It should probably change now because I'm now doing a lot more stuff around decentralized finance, and I'm very interested in cryptocurrency, but I haven't updated this because I'm still not 100% into cryptocurrency. I'm just learning. So what are the things I look for? I mean, my comfortable place when it comes to check sizes is $5,000 to $30,000. Have I done less? I've done less. I've also done more. Once again, depending on what my liquidity is like, but this really keeps me honest. It helps me think about the entrepreneur and what they're building. I'm very interested in tech-enabled solutions, things that can scale, that can go across the continent, and that's having a positive impact. No matter how great something is, if it's having a negative impact on the environment, I'm not interested in this. I like to have an active role, so I normally will be an advisor. I'll sit on the board if possible. If I think it's an organization that really needs governance, I'll ask to sit on the board. Once again, that also depends on the size of my check. If I syndicate a deal where I'm able to bring in more people, I will ask for more, because now I have other people that I've asked to come on this journey with me. And I'm saying to the founder, I want to have a seat at the table just from a fiduciary perspective to be able to look out for other people's investments as well. And then sometimes it's just it's an investment. If I do it through a syndicate and I'm on the other side and someone else leads the deal, I'm very happy for that person to take a lead role. But what I really like to do is also be of help and value. And so I do like to see monthly reports. And in those monthly reports, if there's an ask that I can easily help with, I really like to step in and help. And so sometimes I might not be leading a deal, but if I end up being able to offer the entrepreneur a lot of help, you'd start to see the entrepreneur just gravitate towards you, even though they're still working with the person on their board and their lead. And then that person ends up being another source for deals in the future, another source for opportunities in the future. This is something I didn't think about before, but I think that with some of the investments having gone into their 5th or 6th year, and I then started to really think about how I would like to think about investments going forward. And so now I try to look at companies with that lens, like, will I be able to have a liquidity event in 4 to 7 years? When will I be able to exit this company? And this is definitely something that I've added in recent years, just because of some of the opportunities. And also something that I can ask founders. There was a recent founder that raised a seed round that was pretty sizable, and I would have loved to exit at the time. Unfortunately, their new investors didn't allow anyone to exit, but if I had added that as part of the clause into my investment, I would have been able to exit. So once again, these are things that I'm thinking. And once again, like I said, it is always evolving and changing. What I always tell people is, once again, this is a process that you need to think through. It's really important to think about the industries and the geographies where you can make the biggest impact. If you really have something that you want to test before you put it into your thesis, go out, talk to entrepreneurs, talk to people in that space, build relationships in those places. Like I said, I'm really interested in some new areas. I'm interested in also just food and agriculture. And so I'm doing a lot more research in that and looking at the type of opportunities that are available in food technology. And I really try to stay disciplined. I can tell you this now, there's still some deals that come up and I jump on, but I really do try to stay disciplined. And I think if I didn't have the thesis, it probably would be less disciplined. So I also try to use the thesis in my Excel spreadsheet, I try to put things saying thesis aligned. And so there are a couple of things that are not thesis aligned. And so for those things, I always ask myself, why did you do this? And sometimes it could be that it was an entrepreneur that worked with me before and I know their work ethic, someone I've known for years, or we've worked together, and those things I might do more, even though they might not be thesis aligned. So you always have to also give yourself room to do things that, because you know this is a founder that is going to just, they are the people built to solve this problem, you might make an investment, but it's really important to stay disciplined and also let yourself know that, yes, this isn't thesis aligned, but this is also why I did it. And then of course, you always want to diversify as much as you can. With your angel investments, for you to really start to really have any sort of impact, you really want to have at least 10 investments in your angel portfolio. And then as you start to get more liquidity or you have exits, you really want to also then reinvest where you can. Questions, these are just some questions to keep in mind as you're formulating your thesis, and these could be guides. I can also make these slides available if anyone wants them. So things to keep in mind that always are going to change, and you should try to have a schedule of updating these, which is just markets. What are the trends? What are the companies? Now you know that in the next, 5 years, the VC investment in Africa is probably going to be between 75 billion and 100 billion. What are the trends you're seeing? Where are there also not a lot of people going to? What are going to be the new things? I mean, there's been a huge investment in fintech. There's some investments in logistics. There's still a lot of opportunity in education, in health. Are those the things that you should be looking at? And so, or once again, if you've worked in enterprise systems all your life, then you want to be investing in enterprise systems. So find the founders working in that space, really craft your thesis around that and share your thesis. Feel free to share it on LinkedIn. It's a professional outlet. It's a great place also where founders come to find people. And that way a founder can really look at that and say, this isn't, if someone says, look, I'm interested in SaaS and enterprise and software developers and software as a service, if you're building a real estate company, then you know that you're not thesis aligned. So don't be shy to share your thesis. You don't have to share everything, but you can just say, look, this is my thesis. These are the areas that I'm investing in. And you can be, a part of that you're comfortable with, but let that be also part of your filtering, part of your funnel that you're looking through when you're looking at opportunities. And exits. I think it's really important if you're the type of investor that an exit is important to you, which we all are, really get your founders to start thinking about that. Get them to start thinking about how to build these big companies, how to scale these big companies. There's a lot of research around the type of growth rate you should be seeing if you're trying to build a $100 million company. And make sure that they also understand those metrics. If you invest in a company that is just not going to be a $100 million company and you're expecting the founder to build that type of company, you need to be clear about those goals and expectations from the beginning. And you then need to have the tools that you're giving them so that they can start measuring that and they can start to think about how to grow and scale a company like that. And I think that, to me, one of the biggest things I see about investing is misaligned expectations and objectives, when we don't really tell the founders what we're looking for and what's important to us. And then founders also don't know what's important to us. So it's really important that those goals are aligned. And so as you start to build your strategy and your portfolio, once again, it's, even though you might say you're comfortable investing, $5,000. There are times where you see something really interesting, you know you can add a lot of value and you only have $2,000. Talk to the founder and say, look, I really like what you're building. This is what I have now. I'll be very happy to do a follow-on later before you get to your pre-seed round. And at that time, you can even negotiate a price so you get the same price at which you're doing the 2,000. But that you're really going to be adding value. And also there's sometimes where you might not have the liquidity, but you're able to add a lot of value. Talk to the founder and see if they want you to be an advisor and in exchange for shares. These are all easy contracts. These are all easy conversations. These are all conversations I wish I knew 5 years ago when I first started on this journey. And now we're having those conversations, and it's really about, and you end up building really great win-win opportunities. Really, once again, try to always make sure you're able to participate in the follow-ons to protect your position if you can before these companies go into their seed and Series A, because at that point, a lot of times for angel investors, the valuation just becomes too expensive and it doesn't make sense for you. And because you're really adding a lot of value in the beginning, you want to always constantly be looking for new companies and looking for new opportunities. So that's it. I really wanted this, I didn't want to spend too much time presenting. I wanted us to have a lively conversation, and I'm gonna turn it over to you to see if there are any questions, and would love to have a conversation. Thank you all for listening and for being part of this.
All right, thank you so much, Mrs. Alabi, for that wonderful presentation. Very grateful. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat box, or you can use the icon, raise up your hand, and we'll call on you, unmute yourself, and you ask your question. However, we have a question in the chat box from Isis.
Yes.
And the question goes, do you, or how do you incorporate global trends, including exits, in how you evaluate opportunities that fit your thesis?
Oh, thank you so much, Isis. I do. I mean, I look at what's happening globally, and I look at global companies and sectors that might be looking at the continent. So a lot of times too, I'll look at what's happening in India. What are some of the unicorns in India? I really like looking at India because it is a market that really behaves very similar to ours, and they're a few years ahead of us. So I do look at some of those trends. I also look at some of the trends in Southeast Asia, like in Indonesia, because once again, these are countries that I'm familiar with because I've done projects in them before, and I know they really do behave like a lot of African markets. An example of that is, I remember in 2014 when someone first told me about cryptocurrency and blockchain and the blockchain, and my brain, I couldn't even wrap my brain around it. And at that time, I think that I think Bitcoin was at 100. It had just, it was less than 1,000 at that time. And I just didn't understand. I couldn't, and I wasn't sort of in a place where I could take it in. And then in the last 2-3 years, just sort of looking at the blockchain, looking at transactions, looking at the challenges that we have on the continent with currency, with volatility, and then really starting to understand actually what this is and subscribing to, because just the global market is so much more ahead of us when it comes to this, and looking at those things and subscribing to newsletters. There's some newsletters that I subscribe to that literally 1 minute you start to understand the global trends. And then you can see how those things can scale to Africa. But at the same time, you start to look at adoption of certain technologies on the continent and how that actually might be exported globally. So I get really excited in looking at global insights. And also too, one of the things I just finished sharing with a lot of my founders is around cloud businesses and how to build cloud businesses to $100 million. And I shared it with 3 founders in my portfolio, and they were really excited and grateful and wanted to have a conversation around it. I'll put that link in here as well. So yes, we do really, I do really look at global trends and think about, is this something that we'll see on the continent, or are these guys building companies that can be acquired by some of these global players because they've done acquisitions in other territories. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that. I believe that answers that question. I have a question here on portfolio management, which was brought by one of the angels in the network, as regarding how do you advise we manage our portfolio? And Sanjay also dropped a similar question in terms of portfolio diversification. Would you encourage this across the continent or focus just in the country?
I would really advise this across the continent. I think that there's so many opportunities, so many great things happening on the continent now when it comes to scaling businesses and growing businesses. So in the last year, I've also done some more investments outside of Nigeria. Like I said, once again, the thesis when I first joined Lagos Angel Network was Lagos, and then it expanded to Nigeria, and now it's expanded globally. Once again, if you are interested in education and health and you're very focused on those sectors and you really believe that you can add a lot of value to those sectors, then it's important for you to look at those sectors across the continent, because there is going to be a lot of consolidation. There is going to be a lot of mergers and acquisitions. And I even know some people that we co-invest locally. We started co-investing locally, and they've now expanded. They're investing in Latin America. They're investing in India. They're investing in North Africa. I think I've done 2 investments through a syndicate in North Africa. So yes, definitely. I've also started to diversify across the continent.
Okay, thanks for that. In terms of portfolio management, what's your recommendation for an angel, especially a baby angel just coming up, in terms of managing the portfolio, investing in similar kind of startups, or investing different range of startups, or investing all the fund in one startup? What's your view as regarding the portfolio management?
I mean, I think it's really important to have a couple of sectors that you like and that you can add value to, or industry. So if you worked at DHL all your life and you're doing investments now, of course, you're always going to have a natural gravitation to logistics. So, but you also understand other value chains that DHL uses. And so I would say pick two of those, 3 of those, look at different types of companies and founders. Another way of diversifying is really just having a balanced portfolio when it comes to male and female founders. And that was something that came up in one of our discussions in one of our angel groups, is diversification also involves that, because we know that female founders deliver more return per dollar received. Female founders deliver 70 cents on the dollar in comparison to male founders who deliver 30 cents on the dollar. So it's really important to have a diversified portfolio when it comes to founders, when it comes to geography, and also when it comes to sectors that you can add value to. So I would say for a baby angel, start doing 3 to 5 investments a year. And they could be literally through anything, through syndicates, through angels, and directly. You should do all of them, because things are going to come to you from different places.
All right, thanks so much. A question from Catherine. Do you mostly do direct investment or balance your portfolio with syndication when you invest outside the country? You answer that.
So there was a direct one that I really wanted to do, but once again, I didn't have the liquidity at the time. And this is someone that we worked together on a project when I was working in South Africa. He was someone that I knew very well. And when it came up, a friend here, he was talking to another friend of mine that we had all worked on this project, and they told him to directly reach out to me. And so my friend invested. I didn't invest at the time, not because I didn't like the deal. I just didn't have the liquidity at the time. So yes, I do direct investments when I know the people. If it's through an angel group or a syndicate, I will definitely try to be involved on the calls, so the DD calls. And then if there's an opportunity to then do further DD, whereby I can ask networks It's amazing how many people we are linked to on LinkedIn. So I would do some of that DD as well. And then I would then make the investments. So I've done some direct, but I think most of those investments I've done have been through syndicates and angel groups when it comes to the international ones.
All right, thank you very much for that. Another question from Dr. Shangu. How do I know my business is right for an angel group investment? He's speaking from the angle of a startup now.
So, I mean, I think the number one thing is you have nothing to lose by going to an angel group. So each different angel groups operate differently. So for example, some angel groups within the angel group, they have different syndicates, and those syndicates have different interests. So it's really important for you to understand how each angel group works. So because what you want to do is you want to make sure you present your business to the right syndicate within that group, which means different people in the group have different deals that they're interested in. They will lead that DD, they will lead that, but they will also share it with everyone else in the group. So you want to make sure you're always talking to the right person. So find a good contact in an angel group. Once again, you can do that through LinkedIn, you can do it through Twitter. When you ask people for help, people will help you. Rarely, and if they can't, they'll tell you and you can move on to the next person. It's really not that difficult. Once people say they're an angel investor, they will respond to you. So that's number one. Some angel groups are very clear about the type of companies they invest in. And then you should check their website, you should do your research. Once again, try to find someone to connect in there. You never know if your company is the right investment until you try. So at the end of the day, you lose nothing by trying and telling people what your business is. But if on their website, they say they're only looking at tech-enabled companies, if you're able to tell them that you are a tech-enabled company or a technology company, then that's fine. But there's some that are also looking at just people that are doing bottom up the pyramid. If that's the type of business you have, you can approach them. So really try to see and find the right fit for you. But at the end of the day, there is really, you lose nothing by contacting an angel group, especially if their mandate isn't clearly communicated on their website. You can contact them.
Thanks for that. While you are presenting, you talked about support for these young funders, startups. To what extent should this support be? What is that thin line that will make your support to become you troubling the funders?
You mean investors supporting founders?
Yes.
So, I mean, I think there are different ways that you can support, and you just have to decide how you want to support. So I'll give you an example. I have a founder that I have a bi-weekly call. I have a bi-monthly call with. And so the founder is currently raising their Series A, and they're very interested in a certain investor being a lead investor. And I said, well, how are you approaching that? We don't do Series A. I know a couple of people that do Series A, but I don't know a lot of investors that do Series A. So I said, how are you approaching this investor? And so we spent time strategizing on how to put together responses to the investor's question, but at the same time, really make it clear to this investor that they want this investor to be their lead for their Series A, because it's a strategic lead. And so really helping a founder think through that strategy, helping them put together the proposal to the investor takes 1 hour of my time. It adds an immense value to the founder. The founder came back to me to say they did all the things that we talked about, and the investor's tune has changed from saying, you're not this doesn't directly fit into our thesis, but we can see how this could be useful to other companies in our portfolio. And so really just helping the founder not just think about their company and saying, what other companies have they invested in? Is your company strategically situated to service those companies? Why don't you tell this investor? So it's really those type of conversations that you have with the founder that can really add that value, because once again, you're outside. The founder is in day-to-day, and who knows, maybe they're on Twitter. Who knows, maybe they've been part of the horrible bosses Twitter conversation. So they're obsessed with all those things, but you're able to sort of take a step back to say, yes, these things will happen. You are going to grow as a human being and as a leader, but at the same time, how do you make sure that you're positioned for the next round of investment? The other big thing that I've been able to be part of is corporate governance. sometimes companies think it's too early, but then when they go to raise money and they realize that people are asking them for minutes for past meetings, they start to realize that, oh, wow, I should have had a board much more sooner. So sometimes it feels like, when is the right time to have a board? And having that conversation and being part of like helping them form that board and making sure they have the right governance structure, they have the right they set up a secretariat, so that when they're ready to raise more money in the future, they already have those structures in place. So these are like two tangible examples. But the other thing is that as an angel investor, you have a network of contacts that you can easily connect these founders to. So once again, I always try to say, I try to do at least two connections a week. It doesn't take me a lot of time. I ask the founder who are the people they need to meet. I ask people that I know in my network, do you mind if I do this introduction? And I mean, some weeks I do more, but really I say, if I can do two, that means me contacting 4 people and then doing that connection. A lot of times that leads to something, sometimes it doesn't. But doing those concrete things, and I think as investors, being able to say, look, I'm gonna make 2 meaningful connections to my founders this week, or this, every 2 weeks. If you put it down and you do it, it really can be a game changer for founders. I hope that helps.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much. I don't know if there's any question from anyone in the house or in the room. And if you want to make a comment or a clarification, or you want to add some input to it, you can just raise up your hand or mute, and you have the floor. Is there anybody who would like to share some of these insights? I know Catherine is saying that connections, networks is priceless. I'm sure she has a bit of experience in that angle. I don't know, Catherine, do you want to share something with us?
Only to say that people undervalue the value of networks and the value of introducing people. Just like companies become unicorns financially, people also become unicorns net-wise.
I love that. I'm gonna add that to my slides. I'm gonna add people that are unicorns. No, because those are really key opportunities. And I'm gonna actually add a couple of people in the ecosystem that people do see as unicorns, and how as an angel, you wanna become that super angel that people really do see as a great connector. But really networking, and this is something that I always tell founders, that start to network before you even need an angel to invest in your business. Because by the time you then need that investment, they already know who you are. So networks are priceless. And thank you. Thank you, Mrs. B, for adding that.
So what advice will you give to baby angels? We have mother angels, we have baby angels, those ones with small mouthpiece check.
So the advice that was given to me is, do what you can and get involved. Try to be part of syndicates that are smaller, that have a smaller minimum. There's some syndicates that actually have a small minimum of $1,000, $500. Also too, there are platforms now where you can actually invest in companies through platforms like Get Equity. So for me, I think that start where you are, but really let people know that you want to add value, and you want to help them, and you want to be part of what they're doing and what they're building. But you only have a small check. I mean, one of the things I've learned is never to be ashamed of the size of my check, because sometimes it's small, sometimes it's not bad. But sometimes I really love what people are building, and I will tell them, I love what you're doing, but that your minimum is not in my budget. So how can I be involved? And I tell them, and sometimes people say, do you mind finding other people and to come along with you? And I'm like, no problem, I'm happy to do that. So I think that, you know, as a baby angel, just start, but really find great people that you can help and that can value your contribution and start there. It's never too small and it's never too late to start. So I wish I hadn't been too shy to tell people the size of my checks from times when I really wanted to get involved. So be bold, no matter how small your check is. Say, look, I love what you're doing. I love what you're building. This is what I have now. I want to tie down my position. If I have more, I'll add. If not, I won't, but I want to add value to what you're building. And I just think you're a phenomenal human being. There's no one you'll tell that to. They'll say, yeah, carry your money and be going. They won't. So
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I just want to chip in at this point that the league is the Angel Investment Club of Opolo Global. Opolo is an incubator and accelerator company that provides platform for talents, entrepreneurs, and young founders to thrive. So for angels, be it baby angels, or mother angels, or grandma angels, who are interested in investing in viable startups, especially for those who are in the pre-seed stage and seed stage, we won't just be leaving you alone in investing in it, but the league will also be investing along with you, ensuring that your fund is well protected and also providing mentorship and coaching for these startups. I have a question also from Isis.
Yes. I see the question there. I have to say it's been a mixed bag for me, but I think going forward, I've definitely preferred saves. There's some of our convertible notes that we negotiated in local currency. And so we definitely have had some devaluation issues with some of those as people have converted our Naira investments to dollar investments because they needed to go on and raise more money. So once again, I mean, I think that as the ecosystem has evolved, the currency we're using is also just, everybody's just decide, you know, there's almost sort of like an unsigned document that everyone now is using dollar when it comes to valuation. And so I think saves, and if I compare the multiples and how those have shaken out, I definitely feel like with the safes, it's been much more straightforward. While with the convertibles, and I don't know if that's just because most of those investments were done when we were still using Naira, and Naira has taken a beating. So I'll have to, I mean, I definitely have to say I prefer saves, but also we're doing more hard, you know, dollar denominated investments today. So the jury is still out.
That's fine. We have another question from Ebenezer Jai. Our promises is STEM bio-entrepreneurial startup for matching with angel investors and venture capitalists.
I mean, funny enough, I mean, I think that based on my conversations with Opolo Angels, this is exactly the area that they're looking at when it comes to investing. I think everyone is looking for some very interesting and amazing entrepreneurs and innovation in STEM and biotech. I don't think we've had any sort of biotech companies emerging from the continent. So I think that these are huge opportunities. Remember, angels are going where everybody's not going. So angels are the first people to start to discover new fields and new sectors based on their areas of interest. So what I would suggest to you is look at a Nigerian or African, whoever, you know, based on what country that has actually been in this sector, that can actually start to advise you on who would be good angels, who are people doing a lot of research in this sector that would be interested in writing a check. So that's what you really want to do. You want to do your research to say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. You know, Mrs. Alabi, I know that you're very interested in this. I've heard you speak. I've seen you tweet about it. Or either my friend told me that you're very interested in biotech. I'll love to tell you about what we're building. And then you start that conversation there. So really know when you're very specific and you're very niche like this, it's easier in a way because you can target and do your research and find the right people. But then at the same time, you do have to do your research. It's sort of not a sector that everyone is interested in because not everyone understands it. and people really like to understand what they're investing in, especially at this stage. So good luck with everything, but sounds very exciting.
Thanks so much. Last question from my end here. What, if you will advise, what's the golden rule, if there's any golden rule in terms of angel investment for angels?
Angel networks, I mean, everyone, there's so many now, there's so many syndicates. Sign up and join the syndicates. There's CC Hub, Future Africa, there is Lagos Angel Network, there's the Okolo Angels, there's World Angel Business Forum. There's so many more networks now. Sign up, attend their sessions. They all have informational sessions. Find people to connect with, and just start looking at companies and start investing.
Okolo. Huh? No, no.
All right, thanks so much. I don't know if there's any other question from anyone.
Let me just say a few words. Thank you very much, Biola, for the very interesting and motivating delivery. We know you are a unicorn investor. As Femi will call it, you know, and then this is a new area of investment that people need to be looking at when you are looking at building the future, when you are looking at alternative sources of investment. I've not been too long in angel investing, maybe about 20-something years. And I've started investing in an angel, even though in those days it wasn't structured as angel investing, but just structured as just investing in, you know, young people that have great ideas and so on and so forth. But now that it's even more structured, we now have clubs and stuff. It's an opportunity for everyone to participate in this. Yes, we hear a lot of companies, you know, that started 4 or 5 years ago now becoming unicorns and so on. But those are just examples of the successful ones. As an angel, you must know that you're not just putting money, but you're also putting your time. Just like Biola said, it's not about just putting money, you must be ready to provide guidance, support, and because that is what adds value to the business that can grow. So you must have something else you want to offer apart from just investing. And angel investing required patient capital. Don't put money that you will need next year into an angel for something that you just put in. Okay, these are some projects that I have. And also, of course, the rule of the thumb is that when you invest in 10, maybe we are lucky, maybe 2 will be successful at the end of the day. For those 2, or even if it's 1, so we are lucky, it can be 3 or 4. Those ones will far pay for all the losses that you would have made in the others. And don't be disappointed if you invest in the first 2, 3, 4, and things don't work well. Continue and put on pressure as long as you're not putting all your life savings into angel investment. You know, the rule of the top is that put the money that you can afford to lose. You know, if it doesn't work out well, that's the risk in angel investment. But I can tell you, with my experience, it's been very, very, very interesting, very, very rewarding. Biola mentioned earlier on that you can invest in Naira, and when the company is going to another level of fundraising, that investment will turn into dollars. And you can then imagine, you know, the kind of return you'll be getting, and the kind of value you have in an environment like we are in, where the currency, you know, depreciates very, very rapidly. I mean, these are things that I've benefited from. And I think, and there's no ideal time to join. The earlier you join, the better. To be part of an angel syndicate, and it also help. I like what Catherine said about the value of your network. Your network is so essential, but that's even and also promote your goodwill. So participating in events like this, participating in syndication of investment, participating in the angel network, I think is very, very important. I want to thank the league, the Okolo, the Angel Investment Club of Okolo, for putting these together, and we hope we can all continue to support the growth of our economy, to support, you know, innovators and bright ideas, because people always talk about money being the challenge for business. And I'm saying in today's world, money is not the challenge. But again, people need information, people need education. People that have not been involved in investment need this kind of education to be able to help them. So that all of us working together, we can support entrepreneurship, we can support innovation, and we can develop the economy and develop society at large. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing that insight and your experience with us. I don't know if there's any other person who would like to share insight or experience as regarding investing in startups as an angel before we wrap it up. On the chat box link, we've also included a link for you to join the league. The league is the Angel Investment Club of Apollo Global. So there's a link that has just been pushed in the chat box link. Once you click on the link, fill the form, and the team of the league will get across to you immediately as regarding onboarding you as a member of the Angel Investment Club. Okay, lastly for me, Biola, you've talked about your thesis, which is quite interesting. And the league, earlier yesterday, we were looking at the deal book of the league, and we have quite a lot of viable startups who are just at their pre-seed and seed stage. Though I'm not...
I want to go and sleep inside.
I'm not...
You want to sleep, go and sleep inside.
Is this something we can look at in terms of co-investing before the middle of or end of July this year, in terms of viable startups, which is in line with what you want to do, and also in line with what Artica Ventures or I want to do. And also for those who are also on this call, that will also be an opportunity for them to invest, be it a small mouse check or a huge mouse check. Is this something that is workable before end of July?
Well, definitely. I mean, we can take a look at the companies. We've just launched our fund, and so we're currently now at the beginning stages of our fund, but also looking forward to also having, meetings and looking at pipeline companies. We've already actually started to do some investments. So yes, I'm very happy to have that conversation and also to take a look at those companies. And sometimes it might not be me that will invest. I might have other VCs in my network that might be able to invest. So yeah.
That's fantastic. That's great. We look forward to that. And any other question in the room? I don't think there's any other question. It's also past 6. I want to thank you very much for facilitating this session on angel investment. It's been very insightful and expository for every one of us. I want to say also a very big thank you to everyone for joining this call, especially the chairman of Apollo who also made some comment as regarding his experience regarding angel investment. So thank you so much, everyone. The link is still in the chat box. Feel free to click on it and complete the form if you like to join the Apollo Angel Investment Club, and the team will reach out to you after the session. For all the participants on this call, we will also share with you the presentation slide today. And if you also need any clarification or other further comment, you can send it to us through the email, that we'll be using to send correspondence to you. I will reach out to Mrs. Alabi. I'm sure she'll be very delighted to actually respond to us. So thank you so much, Ma. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
I want to wish you a very great evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.